Der Name Sonnox Oxford steht für absolut hochwertige Plugins und ich freue mich, dass wir jetzt einen Produktspezialisten der Firma hier im Gespräch haben. Hi Joseph.
Hello, how are you doing?
Thank you, fine. The suppressor was launched last year by Sonnox Oxford.
Yep.
And maybe you can tell us some details about that great plugin. I think there are a lot of possibilities what you can do with this, and maybe show us something.
Yeah, although the original idea was to make a de-esser, and that was the whole point. During the development, the concept evolved, and we end up making a dynamic EQ, well, general purpose dynamic EQ. Basic, of course, you can de-ess, but you can do some depopping as well. You can control any frequency range that you do not like, and everything is done with a sound that will be familiar to those Sonnox EQ or Sonnox Dynamics users, because the algorithm behind the suppressor is exactly the same as the Oxford EQ bands, and the compression is handled by the Oxford Dynamics compressor algorithm. So, I mean, there's no secret behind the sound. Let me show you a few examples. If we press play, we have a vocal track here, okay, that's now actually de-essing. But the whole process, the whole procedure would be like that. Let me zoom out. That's the original FFT analysis of the vocal track in this case. We have this band which is completely mobile, and I can define it, define the width. Of course, this case I want to de-ess, so I should locate the band around here. Then I can zoom in, and to fine adjust the boundaries of this band, I have these two monitoring modes. The first one inside allows me to listen only to the audio that's within this band. So then I can fine adjust these boundaries. And the other way around, I mean, I have another outside button that allows me to listen to everything except the band. So now the S's would be totally crushed to 0, which is not what I want, obviously, but that will help me to fine adjust again this band. Once this is done, I go back to mix, that's where my actual signal is, and then click the effect in. I have the threshold control of the compressor here, so then I can decide whenever I want some compression on it. You'll notice that there is this horizontal bar which detects automatically the level of the signal. That's what we call an automatic threshold. Okay. Of course, I can set it as a stationary, not detecting anything. I can do that by accessing the second window of the plugin that allows me to control more parameters. Basically, some compressor parameters here, ratio for more aggressive compression, less aggressive compression. Okay, and of course I can disable the automatic detection here, and then this detection stays steady, and I'm working with absolute threshold values. Okay, my suggestion is to have it on all the time. It's good for controlling some speeches or control different sound levels in any singer, for instance. But then the part which really amazing is what expands a lot the flexibility of the suppressor are these buttons here, because this is have trigger and audio. You may still use the suppressor as a traditional de-esser, just like having a compressor that is triggered every time an S is pronounced. So we can tell the suppressor to behave like that. That's clicking here, and now the audio affected is going to be the whole spectrum, as you can see.
Only the effect is on the spectrum, but it's triggered by the small band you're selecting.
Correct. Just like you would in a normal de-essing environment, all-time de-essing environment. So this time, if you feel more comfortable de-essing because you are after a particular sound or something, then you may use it this way. So now the audio is triggering, well, the compressor is affecting the whole signal instead of just that band. And we can do certain combinations, of course. I mean, in other scenarios where, for instance, we have here a depopper scenario, we can bring in the suppressor. Now you'll see, just by taking a look at the waveform analyzed, we switch the effect off. I mean, just by taking a look at this, I mean, not listening anything, you can tell that there is a peak, a boost here.
Yes.
That obviously there's some depopping that we want to get rid of. Of course, I can use again, I've already placed the filter into the conflictive area. I could use the inside and outside features to listen carefully.
The monitoring section?
Correct, that's it. And when I've got my filter completely set up, I can go back to mix and engage the effect. So every time there is an F or a P or a B, one of those plosive consonants, so unpleasant, then it will get rid of them. Of course, the main difference of using this suppressor or a regular EQ is that the EQ will always get rid of that frequency. The suppressor will respect the contents, the low-end contents, if they do not hit the threshold, of course, being a dynamic EQ. Another example is the one for creative purposes. We have a kick drum here. Let me select it for you. Yeah, this time the suppressor will modulate the sound of an incoming kick drum sound, which you can see here.
Yeah.
And the settings of the trigger and audio buttons are like this. I mean, the trigger is the audio that's triggering the compressor. This now is not the band, it's the full spectrum. And now,
Including the band also.
oh yeah, the full spectrum including the band. And the audio affected by the compressor will be the band only. So if we switch back to window A, this is just done. I mean, of course, we can call back the monitoring modes. I want to locate the fundamental frequency here because I want to reduce it a little bit. And then when I've located it, I click the effect in and I compress slightly the contents of that band whenever the drummer is playing at a certain power. Let me call it like this. Yeah, and then the sound I got out of this is more deadened, so I can customize. But imagine the scenario where it's not this part of the waveform. So imagine that the microphone is capturing the ringing sound of the pedal chain, and you obviously you don't want that at all.